Whoosh! The relentless sun bore down, its rays more intolerant than usual. A refreshing breeze brushed against my skin, a sensation that felt out of place. Was this a prank by Ike and the others? Did they drag me outside to sleep in the park again? Impossible. Carrying my mattress alone would be a Herculean task for them, let alone relocating me to another park. Hey man, we'd never doing something like that. Sudo was the first to shout in dissonance, perhaps to prove to his crush that he wasn't so utterly ridiculous in his antics. Or perhaps just to stop embarrassing himself in front of the entire school. Ken's right. Even we'd never take it that far. Although a few in Class D doubted the actions of the idiot duo, Ike had become brave enough to voice his own rebuttal, due to Sudo speaking up. The screen continued playing Ayano Koji's continuously restless thoughts. The symphony of rustling leaves, swaying grass, creaking trees played a pleasant melody. Birds contributed to the natural chorus with the distinct cooing of a dove echoing through the air. The rhythmic sounds of nature clashed with my fading confusion. A dove? Breeze? This couldn't be. The next scene flickered onto the auditorium screen. Ayano Koji was no longer in his dorm. Instead of that, he was lying in the middle of a quiet forest clearing. What the hell? Shibata blurted immediately, leaning forward in disbelief. He was literally in his bed 2 seconds ago. Teleportation. Mizono muttered weakly. Hirata, who usually tried to stay composed for the sake of his class, looked shaken. A sudden location shift like that can't be real, can it? Sutomura pushed his glasses up dramatically, eyes sparkling with way too much excitement for the situation. This is clearly the work of an isekai, he announced with absolute confidence. Truck-kun must have struck off screen. Yeah, that didn't happen. The tomboyish Onodera deadpanned, but the absurdity of the situation made it hard to dismiss his claim entirely. With a sluggish pace, my eyes reluctantly opened, greeted by an unexpected scene. 3 pairs of eyes stared down at me, radiating curiosity. Their attire puzzled me, reminiscent of medieval peasants, clad in rough fabrics with thick blazers draped over. Before anyone could argue further, 3 small children came into view on the screen, all dressed strangely. Medieval-looking clothes? Katsuragi narrowed his eyes analytically. Their outfits hardly look of modern essence. Truly another world, he noted. Oh, he's waking up. Ayano Koji looked just as confused on screen, silently processing the absurdity of his situation. Then one of the kids spoke in crisp, fluent German. Horikita sat up straight so quickly her seat squeaked. I believe that's German. In one of my audiobooks, a German character spoke a different dialect of German. However, that is undoubtedly vicariously similar, she said, frowning. Why would children in a random forest know German, especially if this is another world? And why is Ayano Koji-kun interacting with them so calmly? As if in response to her confusion, neat white subtitles appeared across the screen. And that, oddly enough, was what made Ryuan smirk to himself. Subtitles, huh? That means the government bastards already watched this part, so they're editing the footage for us. Meaning they've been analyzing this longer than they're letting on. Hey, sloppy. His expression didn't change, but the thought lingered with amusement. It wasn't only Ryuan, the more intellectually included and observant students had also caught on to this morsel of information. Kushida's change in expression, meanwhile, was far more overt. Her eyes widened as she clasped her hands together. Eh? But Ayano Koji-kun doesn't speak German, right? So how is he supposed to communicate with them? This is so scary. He must have been so confused. Except she was watching him not panic at all. He wasn't confused, nor was he scared, which only made her smile tighten. How the hell can this gloomy-faced bastard be so calm in this situation? Akito exhaled sharply. Kiyotaka just took it in stride. If that happened to me, I'd be freaking out. Eri flinched at each unfamiliar sound coming from the children, clutching her sleeves close to her chest. They don't look dangerous, but Kiyotaka-kun is all alone. And in a forest, too. I hope he's okay. Kisei leaned forward despite himself. A completely random relocation, the presence of foreign children, and an unknown language. Even a gifted student would show at least some visible confusion. But Ayano Koji on screen was calm. Too calm. Haruka glanced between the screen and his empty seat beside her and whispered under her breath, Kyopon really is something else. Hirata nodded quietly, a crease forming between his brows as he agreed to the sentiment. There has to be some explanation for this, but right now, I can't imagine what it could be exactly. In the corner, Kay's hand clenched subtly over her skirt. She didn't speak, lacking the trust in her voice, but her worry showed in the light tremors made by her tense fingers. Across the hall, Ikinos stiffened, the sight of Ayanokoji suddenly alone in some unknown world jabbing her with a sharp, unplaceable fear. Amikura gently placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Honami-chan, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm just surprised is all." But her eyes stayed locked on the screen. Hiyori Shina watched with quiet fascination, but also a tinge of worry for her book buddy. A thoughtful finger lightly placed on her cheek. "Just stay safe, Ayanokoji-kun." Arazu Sakiyanagi tilted her head, amusement glinting in her eyes. My, a sudden relocation and a foreign language to adapt to right away. What a curious start for you, Ayanokoji-kun, even by your standards." A brown-haired kid around 9 or 10 spoke in. "German, high or low German, middle German, I can't tell, their accents are strange." Several students in the auditorium broke into laughter. "Middle German. What is this, a history class?" Ike snorted. "High German, like, is that the premium edition or something?" Hashimoto added, grinning. Even a few second years let out quiet chuckles, the absurdity too much even for them. "An American Bird soundtrack accompanying German dialogue, am I high? Or is this a simulation of one of Hiyori's books? Or Sotomura's manga?" Meanwhile, Hiyori blinked when she heard her own name referenced in the monologue. "Oh, a simulation of my books," she murmured with a soft, embarrassed smile. "That's quite flattering, if a little surprising." Sotomura, hearing his manga mentioned, practically lit up. "Aha! See, even he thinks this is manga logic," he declared proudly. "Ayanokoji Dono, thanks to your kind self, I have been vindicated," Kanzaki sighed. "You being vindicated is the worrying part. Am I on acid?" Ayanokoji, mistaking his perplexing situation for being intoxicated, earned a louder wave of laughter. "He thinks he's on acid," Sato giggled, half covering her mouth. "Honestly, can't blame him," Kikuchi said, shaking his head. "I'd think I was hallucinating too. You, Sorry for waking you up, mister." "Me and my friends were just running to the tree, that's all," uttered the blonde-haired, bowl-cut friend. "Is that a boy or a girl?" That last thought made 2 first-years lose it again. "Dude, even he can't tell," Ihara wheezed. 2 boys exuded European features, while the lone girl possessed a distinctly Japanese appearance. She gazed at me silently with wide eyes. Was I kidnapped, tossed onto an airplane and shipped off to Germany? Rumors of sausage-scented citizens and their perpetual anger issues crossed my mind. It was a worse fate than going back to the White Room. That line hit the room like a thunderbolt. Horikita stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "Thinking about sausages and angry Germans? Why is he like this?" Kay's lips parted in disbelief. "He seriously thinks being kidnapped to Germany is only slightly worse than the White Room, Kiyotaka. Is your past truly even worse than mine?" Haruka looked torn between laughing and crying. Kiyopon really thinks about his situation in the strangest ways. Meanwhile, the rest of the room reacted to the bigger bomb in that sentence. The White Room. And the fact he said something was worse than being teleported across dimensions, completely isolated with no knowledge, resources, or information, made it really cement in their minds. Whatever this White Room was could be a very touchy topic for the teen on screen. Katsuragi folded his arms. If he considers a foreign abduction preferable to this White Room, his past must be beyond worrisome. Perhaps this is why he was placed in Class D, despite his clearly intelligent thoughts. There may be far greater complexity to Ayanokoji Kiyotaka than I initially thought. I should keep an eye out for further mention of this White Room. Katsuragi was in deep contemplation surrounding the past of said person. Ryuan clicked his tongue, smirking. Titch. So even teleportation to another country is better than whatever that hellhole is. Whatever the monster's past is, it's clear the White Room is front and center to solving all his mysteries. Where did the monster come from? Where was he raised? Where on earth did he get all his abilities? Once all my questions are answered, I'll find a crack in your defenses. Anything. I'll take anything, and once I find it, I will win no matter what it takes. Ikenos's face paled. Worse than being taken off of Earth without any prior warning. That's horrible. What must he have gone through to even think like that? No matter what you go through, Ayanokoji-kun, if you need help, I'll be there to help you in the same way you were there for me. No, I will help you. Once you return, that is. Ikinose's determination and resolve in helping her dearest friend had just been well sharpened. Amikura squeezed Ikinose's arm. He must have suffered a lot more than anyone realized with his poker face and all. Chihiro nodded. He always looks so unbothered, but if his past is so bad. Kushida wore her perfect smile, but her eyes dimmed, looking down towards her feet. He jokes so casually about trauma. It's kind of worrying. Even Arisu Sakianagi's playful expression dimmed slightly. Fufufu Ayanokoji-kun. To say such a thing so casually, I suppose even trauma can become mundane to you. Yuck, creepy loli. Why does she always laugh so strangely? Just laugh like a normal person. Masumi-san, you weren't thinking of anything offensive just now, were you? Sakiangi arched an eyebrow, forming a questioning glance towards Beer-chan. What? No, of course not. Don't be absurd. Yep, very creepy. If Professor X was a little girl, his name would be Arisu, 100% healed softly, empathy in her gaze. If my book buddy wants to talk about it, I'll be here for him. Maybe a hug could do him some good. Hiyori visibly reddened at that thought, and for some foreign reason to herself, her heart was beating faster than before. Oi, Sheena, why the heck are you so red? Ibuki called out in a questioning tone. A short and curt reply, but polite nonetheless. Am I blushing? Is this what they call L-love? Ha! What a strange person, Ibuki muttered under her breath. She didn't particularly dislike Shina Hiyori, but found her a little odd. It's no issue, I casually declared, strolling away. I was just taking a short nap. You'll be off now. The line played in flawless native-level German. For a mere moment, the theatre went dead silent. Ha! Ike practically exploded out of his seat. Since when the hell can Ayanokoji speak perfect German? Hirata's jaw dropped. That wasn't textbook German either. That was native German. Kiyotaka-kun, how? Haruka stared wide-eyed. Kiyopon's actually speaking another language fluently, like he just downloaded it and has it ready for use. Hashimoto squinted. What the hell is he, Google Translate? Incredulity, iron pressed into his face. Kay grabbed the arm of her seat. Wait! He just flipped languages like nothing. Kei Kiyotaka, what the hell? You never told me you could do that. Yukimura nearly choked. That pronunciation, that cadence, that's near perfect. This is not normal. How many languages does he even know? Is it just German? Damn it, I have so many questions, but no way to get any answers. Horikita frowned sharply. So he has another skill he never bothered to mention. Typical. Is there something apart from socializing that he isn't good at? Ryoan clicked his tongue with irritation. Tech. The damn monster can apparently speak German like it's his mother tongue. Go figure. Katsuragi crossed his arms, genuinely perplexed. That accent was astonishingly precise. It's evident he's put time and effort into truly learning it. Hiyori brought a hand to her lips. His intonation was indistinguishable from a native speaker, according to the rest of Yo. That level of fluency would require years of practice. Ishizaki shot up from his seat. Hey, what the hell? Why is Ayanokoji-san speaking German like it's his first language? Ibuki rolled her eyes, but her expression was shaken. Ugh, as if he needed another freak skill. I swear he acquires talents like he's picking items off a supermarket shelf. Albert, normally silent, muttered in perfect English under his breath. Bro's pronunciation is good. Everyone who heard him froze. Ishizaki turned to him. Dude, you speaking English right now isn't the point. Ikinose blinked rapidly. He can speak German too. Is there anything he can't do? Amikura leaned toward her. He didn't know either, right? No, I didn't. Ichinose was genuinely caught off guard. Chihiro leaned forward in her seat like a stunned meerkat. He spoke that, so smoothly, like he's lived there his whole life. Was Ayanokoji-kun always this talented? Kanzaki exhaled slowly, eyes narrowed in analytical disbelief. That level of fluency takes years of continuous practice to achieve that level. I am starting to question just how dangerous he may have been to our class now. Chihiro nodded shakily. It's a little bit scary now. Ichinose was mildly irritated by Kanzaki. Kanzaki-kun, come on. He's trapped in another world, for goodness sakes. Stop doubting him so much. We aren't even in class competitions right now. Gee, Honami-chan, you're sure defending your boyfriend with some vigor, aren't you? Amikura raised an eyebrow with a teasing smirk. I told you it's not like that, Mako-chan. A quick retort. Too quick for Amikura's liking. Aha! You keep telling yourself that, sweet Tomatanami-chan. Komiya muttered. That wasn't even surprising anymore, in all honesty. Arisu Sakiyanagi chuckled, eyes glimmering with delight. Oh my, Ayano Koji-kun, you're full of delightful surprises. Perfect German on command. How far does your education go, I wonder? Hashimoto whistled low and long. Perfect German. Of course. Because why wouldn't he speak perfect German? Soon he's going to recite ancient Greek or decode alien languages as the next on his to-do list. He leaned back with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Seriously, though, what is he? And how many more surprises does he have up his sleeve? He glanced toward Sakiyanagi. And here I was thinking I had some kind of read on Ayano Koji-kun. But Jaime seems to know him to some degree. I wonder what their connection is. I guess I'll ask later after our break. Sotomura nearly fell out of his seat. He's a transmigrator, I knew it. Only isekai protagonists get multilingual buffs. Hashimoto snorted. The king really unlocked the German DLC. A few first years burst into laughter at the sheer stupidity of that brief outburst from the strange spectacled otaku senpai. Hey so, why is that ponytail senpai calling the guy on screen king? An innocently curious first year asked. This elicited a round of laughters from the soon-to-be second-year boys. Kukuku, truly a monster in every way. Ryuin dropped a line to increase the laughter even more. Ha ha, damn straight, dude is built different, Ishizaki. Ha ha, my T-Rex-kun is indeed deserving of the title king in this regard. Quenji, praising him, made the girls and the rest of the first years even more confused. They couldn't understand the connection at all. After a few questioning glances towards the second-year boys, they realized they wouldn't be told anything, so the discussion moved on. Kushida smiled brightly, too brightly even. He can speak German, fluently? Aha, that's so impressive and terrifying. She muttered the last words under her breath so only she could hear. Kushida was beginning to be concerned that she may have messed with someone fairly powerful, and could only hope Ryuen may take care of him, if he were ever to return. Although, after the paper's shuffle exam, even a speck of trust for Class C's tyrant. Sato whispered, What if he knows languages? Onodera shrugged helplessly. I'd believe it. He sure is a smart cookie, isn't he? Akito rubbed his temples. First insane speed, now fluent German. What's next? There was no malice in his rhetorical question. Just pure admiration and shock that his friend was so ridiculously talented, far more so than he let on. Clearly. Kisei stared at the screen in open disbelief. Do you have any idea how many years people spend mastering German pronunciation? This isn't normal at all. This is borderline superhuman for a teenager our age to accomplish. Haruka cried. Please tell me Kyopon's secretly been studying under a German grandma or something, or else I won't know what to believe. Eri covered her mouth, trying her best not to giggle. Haruka, I don't think Kiyotaka-kun has a German, grandma. Clad in my unwrinkled, pristine uniform, devoid of a phone for location checks. Would I even be able to check my location outside of Arnage? I faced a strange dilemma. The nearest town seemed like a reasonable information hub, but these kids were potential sources of local gossip. My peculiar attire would undoubtedly stir chatter. To blend in, I contemplated the uncomfortable notion of finding or stealing attire akin to those worn by the trio. Unpleasant, yet a necessary step to seamlessly blend into this odd setting. Ikino's breath hitched. He wouldn't actually do that, right? She wasn't trying to judge him, more so she was worried, like she always was about others. Perhaps it was to do with her past experiences with shoplifting too. Ikino's didn't want the same shunning to happen to someone she knew was a good person. Amikura leaned beside her, whispering to keep her calm. It might be the only thing he can do. He's alone out there, you know. Ikino's bit her lip, unable to deny it. Kanzaki folded his arms, thinking far more pragmatically. Given the circumstances, obtaining clothing would be a priority. I don't consider this too morally egregious. He exhaled. It seems unlike him, yet he does act according to rational necessity. That's the impression I have of him. It was his polite way of saying if Ayano Koji needed to do it, he absolutely would. Eri fidgeted with her sleeves, face pink with distress. Kiyotaka, stealing. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He's a gentle person. I don't want him to have to do something like that. Her worry was painfully sincere, her hands trembling. Iori tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, far calmer yet clearly unsettled. In stories, displaced protagonists often need to adopt the customs of the world to survive. Her eyes softened. I don't think he wants to steal. Ayano Koji-kun is simply preparing mentally for the most efficient path. A second passed, followed by a small and gentle sigh filled with worry. It worries me that he has to think that way at all, though. Sato leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Honestly, if he has to, then he's definitely capable of it. She said it with reluctant acceptance rather than admiration. Then, after a moment, I just hope he finds another way, though. He really doesn't deserve more trouble. Of course he could do it. Kay's hands tightened around her skirt, anxiety peeking through the bravado. He's careful and sneaky when he wants to be. If it's life or death or whatever that place is, then yeah, he'd pull it off, no sweat. She swallowed. He had to write. Kiyotaka promised to protect me and said he was strong enough to do it. And after all, no one was stronger, smarter, and cooler than my own boyfriend. But I hate that he even has to think like that. Why is he in a world where stealing is an option he has to consider? Her voice cracked near the end, though she hid it well. Kei-chan, you seem to know him all too well, Matsushita questioned. Huh? Oh, well, let's just say we're good friends. In all her anxiety, Karuizawa forgot her relationship with Ayano Koji was supposed to be a secret, due to him mentioning it so casually. Matsushita wasn't buying at all. She was far too observant to miss something like that. Kei-chan and Ayano Koji-kun definitely have some deeper connection. This was due to Ayano Koji's earlier mention of her first name and the sheer worry and anxiety exhibited by Kei-chan throughout the viewing. She wasn't going to press on, however. That wouldn't do this situation any good. She'd get her answer as soon as Ayano Koji looked stable enough, resulting in a much more calm Karuizawa. Ah, I see. I didn't think both you and Ayano Koji-kun would get on so well since you're like polar opposites. Moo. He helped me out during the Zodiac exam, and we hang out every now and then. Yes, Karuizawa-san is correct. Kiyotaka-kun has helped me a lot as well. He's a very reliable person. Hirata backed up her claim and solidified Ayano Koji as someone fairly competent to the rest of them. Hirata-kun? Has Ayano Koji-kun really helped you out that much? Questioned Horikita. Just how much has he done behind my back? Yes, Kiyotaka-kun helped me get over the period after class poll exam when Yamochi was, unfortunately, expelled. His face dimmed at the thought. I see. However short the reply, Horikita's acknowledgement was unmistakable. Hirata-kun also told me that Ayano Koji-kun was the most reliable person in class, so I have to agree. He has helped me out before, too. Mi-chan exclaimed loud enough for the rest of Class D to hear. In response, Hirata flashed her a warm smile, and she could only look away with a blush. This acknowledgement also ran rampant throughout Class D, who were steadily beginning to see that the ghostly presence of their classmate was far more alive and present than they could have ever known. A delicate, amused laugh floated from Class A's seating area. My, you're all wondering whether Ayano Koji-kun could steal something. She tilted her head, tapping her cane gingerly against her knee. After witnessing his little dash at the sports festival, with the speed he displayed that day, he could pluck the clothes off a guard, and they would only feel but a passing breeze. A few students turned with dropped jaws. It was indeed a logical thought which made perfect sense. If you were fast enough, you wouldn't be caught all that easily. Sakayanagi's smile deepened. So yes, if he wished to steal, he could do so with picturesque elegance, odd, setting, walls. There were towering walls, maybe 45 to 50 meters tall, a few hundred meters in front of me. Now, if this were some fever dream, I would disregard the strange structures, weird people, landscapes and all, but this seems too real to be just a dream. Horikita's eyes sharpened the moment the walls appeared, tall enough to blot out the sky. They appeared impossibly thick, stretching almost endlessly. These aren't modern fortifications. They're far too large. These walls, they're far too tall. Even medieval fortresses weren't built on this scale. This is simply absurd. She swallowed. No structure like this should exist in our own world. Queasy was stunned. Well, that's completely unrealistic. He pushed his glasses up. A wall easily over 50 meters tall. That height alone is ridiculous. Even the most advanced countries today couldn't construct such a structure without enormous cost, not to mention the construction time. He gulped. Where exactly is he? His glasses slipped slightly down his nose in evident concern. Kanzaki, his voice low. That design. The gates, the stone, the archaic layout. This resembles a fortified city from several centuries ago, but the scale is far beyond historical precedent. Katsuragi observed with apt certainty. With walls of that height, they cannot be protecting against mere humans. He scanned the scene with deliberate calm. Either the people here believe they are under threat from something massive, or the walls serve a symbolic purpose unknown to us. But even then, he looked unsettled. This all but confirms it. This world is not our own. Ike Practice leaped off his seat. What the hell is that? He stood halfway out of his chair. Those aren't walls. Those are skyscrapers made of rocks. Shut up, you pervert, all your screaming is hurting my poor ears. Shinohara, who had stayed fairly quiet since before, couldn't help but speak up. Yeah, whatever you say, I'll go. Ike only shrugged in response. Sudo looked towards the brown-haired boy. Kanji, what kind of place builds something like that? What the hell are they trying to keep out? Cuckoo, the dog made an actually good point. How surprising. Suzune, why don't you give him some Scooby snacks, huh? Ryuin sarcastically clapped towards the general direction of Class D. Oi, you bastard, Ryuin, why don't you come over here and Sudo-kun, stop it. He's only trying to provoke you. Don't let him get in your head. As for once, you made a perfectly valid point. Horikita brought Sudo out of his flying rage. All right. Following a tongue click, Sudo-ken decided to listen to Class D's leader with a light blush dusting his face, all for being praised. She actually said I did good. This has to mean I'm improving well. Go me. Kukuku, well, Sudog, you sure are a good pet, aren't you? If you want Suzune, I can buy you a dog collar for it, or maybe you can wear the collar for me instead. Sudo only scowled in his direction, attempting to mean-mug Ryuin. Whilst Horikita icily glared at him for his disgustingly perverted remark, he simply shrugged them off with an amused smirk and looked on. Haruka's hands were pressed to her own face. Did Kyopon actually get sent to another world? This is real, isn't it? No modern country builds medieval cities with stone walls that size. This would be impossible normally. Matsushita could only add her own quiet conjecture, more so to herself than anyone. Normally I would chalk this up to the sensation of lucid dreaming, but upon tapping and lightly pinching myself multiple times to wake up, nothing happened. Where am I? Wait. I stopped my descent down the hill, glancing back at the trio. The girl called out to me. What's your name? Mikasa, I don't think. Do you mind if I refuse? I took on the caricature of Horikita when we first met. The blonde cringed, and the brunette looked disappointed. So he's attempting to imitate me to fend off unwarranted questions. Smart, if a little annoying. A few eyes turned to her with embers of joviality in them, but ever the Ice Queen, Horikita Suzune, simply ignored them. Ice cold. The girl, now Mikasa, didn't seem deterred, albeit a bit annoyed. Well, there isn't anyone else who looks like me, and I was just curious. The wording struck me as odd. Japanese people were a rarity. From what I knew, Asians, let alone the Japanese, made up less than 2% of the German population, and are mostly concentrated in the cities. The world is globalized. People should know what an East Asian person looks like, at least if they're from the West. Are we in some rural community? That would be a possibility if the facts lined up properly, but no. By what Mikasa just told me in this country, Asians, who make up a large portion of two-world population, are a rarity. Somehow. It didn't make sense to conclude we were in Germany or Europe for that matter. Sound reasoning and a logical conclusion. However, I must say, his observational abilities are off the charts. How he has managed to pick apart small nuances in her statement to such a terrifying degree, to the point that he came to an answer we were all handed. I am shocked. Mere moments after awakening, no less, and with minimal effort. Katsuragi was bewildered someone like this was loitering around in the backdrop of Class D. Many nodded their head in agreement, but didn't speak. Katsuragi had surmised everything they wanted to say anyways. The means to how I got here are strange enough. Finding out where I am too is complicating matters. The walls, the strange fauna, the strange clothing. It's like I've gone back in time to the 1700s. There was a sudden sinking in my heart. What was going on? Nothing was making sense at all. I see. I began. I'm Ayano Kuji Kiyotaka. Mikasa's eyes widened slightly at my response. Mikasa Ackerman. My friend's name is. Is she using the Western naming convention? Shoot. Eren Yeager, the brown-haired one exclaimed. Armin Artlet, mister. Is this some sort of superhero movie or comic? This earned a plethora of light chuckles around the audience, who still could hardly believe the absurdity of the situation. And yet still their protagonist remained seemingly unfazed. If a little confused, he could remain impassive enough to make jokes in his head. I nodded my head. Then I'll be. Where are you from Ayanokuji? Eren ran up to me, curious. Am I being racially profiled? More laughter rang out of the auditorium. Ha ha! Stop! I can't breathe. Puffed. Hey, who could have thought that guy could be so funny? Shame he keeps his jokes to himself. Well, he's probably being polite. He sure has some funny thoughts, though. Eren. Well, I'm not from here, that for sure. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, is he trying to glean info out of them? It was a brave first year who asked that. Now that you mention it, a question like that will force the person in question to assume you're from somewhere they do know about, thus fitting a certain stereotype based on initial impressions. Ikenos had caught the tail end of the line and made a fantastic observation. Fufu indeed, Ayanokuji-kun is engineering this conversation to gain better geological understanding of his present situation and his unnerving whereabouts at the current time. Very smart. Once Sakiyangi had said this, many began doubting conversations between them and the boy on screen. As expected, should I add. Hey, if he was really able to push those children to that answer, what about us when we talked to him? Did he find out how many moles I have on my ass because I asked him the time? Dude, you have moles on your ass. No comment. The question, although ridiculous in its presentation, also posed a very clear dilemma to the rest of the student body. You had to meticulously watch what you said around Ayanokuji, who could, in essence, manipulate a situation without you even becoming aware he was doing it. Forcing you to arrive to a conclusion he wanted you to. Terrifying, that was the collective thought. The boy shot me a strange look, his tone taking a more disdainful one. You're from the inner walls? Judging by your clothes, it looks like it. They're super high quality. Inner walls? Are we in a set of walls? And high quality? I'm just wearing my school uniform. What was the economic status of this country? It's well below Western standards if they're calling something like my blazer high quality. Cuckoo, there goes the monster again, making jokes inside his head. Seems he got the information he wanted too. Just how manipulative is this guy anyways? Ryuan joked. Sakayanagi's eyes gleamed with amusement. Fufufu indeed, he has splendidly manipulated them to an answer he wanted. Fantastic, if I may say. This girl is so damn creepy, stop laughing like that, it's making me want to smack my head with something. Komuro looked on with a scrunched-up face. And what's with the contempt? Don't tell me Karl Marx exists here too. A small yet delighted giggle escaped Hiyori's mouth, adorned by an angelic smile. No, Ayanokuji-kun, he can't get to you in that world. At least I don't think he could. Huh? Shina-san, you do know he can't hear you, right? Ibuki was seriously confused by her talking to a screen. Oh, of course. But Ayanokuji-kun had a funny thought, so I wanted to comfort him. Unfortunately, he's not here. She looked slightly deflated, like an injured puppy. Ryuan shot a look of, you better fix that, and glanced away. Shh, damn bastard. Listen, it's not like you can't do it. If you want to, then it's fine, I guess. She grumbled out an apology. Angelic smile. You know what? Keep doing that. A slight nosebleed followed by a thumbs up from Ishizaki seemed to seal the deal. Only to be pummeled by a swift question mark kick by Ibuki, crumpling Ishizaki's body into his seat. Don't corrupt her with your perviness, Ishizaki. Kukuku. Had that one coming, Tishu-kun. Ryuan kicked the dying dog even more. Backtracking, there appeared to be no motorized sounds at all, suggesting that the car was either not invented yet or was very few. I can't fathom modern society without the sounds of cars, at least somewhere in the background. There wasn't even sounds of industrial equipment, even in the distance. The atmosphere was clean. Again, what time period was this? The late 1700s to late 1800s, perhaps? No. Before the Second Industrial Revolution, the late 1700s to 1860 there. There's still a large gap of time, perhaps. I guess you could say that. Then why'd you come out this far to Shiganshina, just to nap? The blonde one was observing me, almost in an intense manner, while his friend interrogated me. He appeared intelligent, even just from a glance. Judging from his actions prior, could he be another Ikanos character? Possibly. E2, Miha. Ikanos was a little perplexed why she was being compared to a small, innocent child. Onami-chan, it's 'cause you're really observant, but also really kind, almost to a fault. Her best friend filled her in. Well, what she surmised Ayano Koji on screen meant anyways. Also, Shiganshina. The place where we're located was called Shiganshina. I'm assuming he's referring to the massive gate nearby. Shiganshina was inside there, and this was the surrounding area inside the wall. What was outside the walls, then? Why were there walls in the first place? Obviously to keep something out. People? No. What was the use of creating 50-meter walls just to keep out people? The Great Wall of China's max height is 14 meters, and in India the walls of Meranga reach as high as 36 meters, not to mention the latter's walls surround a 4. In comparison to the walls here, they appear to go in for miles and miles, with little to no foundation visible. Unless they had somehow replicated the Burj Khalifa's foundation system, I doubt the pressure from all that material would be good for the surrounding lands. It would start to sink after a while. Kaneda meddled his glasses slowly, eyes never leaving the screen. He's breaking it down like an engineering problem. After a pause, he added more quietly, that level of structural reasoning isn't something you pick up casually. At least I don't think it is, or Ishizaki-kun wouldn't be as dumb as a pebble. He got you good with that one, Ishizaki. You glasses bastard, who said I'm a dumbass? Ishizaki retorted to the stray shot from his clerking about you delinquent fuck. He called you dumb, you called yourself a dumbass. Don't worry, if you're having trouble with your mental health, just ask Ibuki to take good care of your sorry ass. Ryuan had a devious grin across his face as he continued his onslaught on poor Ishizaki. What the hell did I do to you, Ryuan-san? I don't know, your face just pisses me off sometimes. Will both of you assholes just shut up already? Ibuki had enough of their bickering. Moving swiftly onwards from that debacle, the auditorium was still having discourse run rampant inside its walls. Hamaguchi frowned, arms crossed. Why does he already know comparative wall heights? He wasn't taking on an accusatory tone, but instead just exhibiting minor confusion. China, India, and random facts on structural engineering. His wide array of general knowledge is quite impressive. Someone from the back muttered. He doesn't even sound all that impressed. Another whispered. I mean, it's big, but apart from that, is there anything to be impressed about? What unsettled them most wasn't the mention of walls, or the scale of them. It was the fact that Ayano Koji's first instinct wasn't direct fear, but quick to accept understanding of what he was seemingly dealing with. But despite all that, questions lingered on everyone's minds. What was the use of 50 meters walls? What exactly were they keeping out? The screen mercilessly carried on playing. No one was fully given a chance of dissecting this thought. Not yet anyways, as a few of the more superior students had begun to formulate their own theories and conclusions. Of course, there was Sotomura too. What kind of bizarro world am I in? Everyone nodded in agreement that truly Ayano Koji had been transported to a very peculiar world. I just came here to visit. I patted around my person and pulled out a small notepad I always kept in one of my pockets. I was finding good places to draw small landscapes. It seemed like I fell asleep in the process. A collective "oh" came from the trio. I took this as my chance to leave. I'll be going now. I could sense that they had more questions, but I was far away before they could ask any. How troublesome. A few students blinked in disbelief. Hirata exhaled slowly, impressed. He adjusted instantly. There was a hint of concern beneath the calm observation. I think most people would freeze up in that situation, but it seems Kiyotaka didn't hesitate at all, truly as expected of his calm and poised demeanor. Kisei's brow furrowed. He didn't even question whether the story would hold. Matsushita tilted her head, eyes narrowing partially, as she replayed the scene in her mind. That wasn't just him improvising, she thought. He adapted very quickly. Just how much more are you truly hiding? Had someone, the same as me, been hiding in the shadows of Class D this entire time? I wonder if all of our victories were completely led by Horikita-san, or whether he had a much larger role to play than I had initially confronted him for. A low, uneasy feeling garnered among the students, as his thoughts moved too quickly from the encounter. Karuizawa's tension heightened. Walls don't exist for nothing. She murmured under her breath. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen. Whatever they're keeping out must be really bad. Did I get shorter, A few "ha" could be heard around the auditorium as everyone inspected Ayanokoji. Since he knew himself best, they let his own thoughts find the answer for them. I looked down as my green pants touched the floor. I had never had this problem before. My ankles sometimes peeked through from time to time, so I'd say I was a not too tall. I needed to find a mirror or some reflective surface to confirm myself. What kind of black magic did Horikita perform on me this time? This aroused many hearty chuckles. And two of the strangest ones were at center stage. Fufu, it seemed Horikita-san has casted a magical spell before this too. How utterly magnificent. Damn, smug loli, always with that creepy laugh. I need me a beverage pronto. Masumi would go prowling the convenience store later when they got their inevitable break. For what reason? Well, we all know, don't we? Kukuku, well, Suzune, seems the monster really hates your guts, huh? So you got a curse doll and snagged one of his hairs or something. His over-the-top ridiculing, albeit benign, could, with enough time and pressure, all but reduce even the iciest of shells to a mere watery puddle. I've tried my best to ignore your pathetic goading, but I'll make self clear. Do not call me by my given name. Your very existence alone disgusts me to no end. You should stop trying to elicit another rise out of me, because it won't happen. She turned away with a look of morbid disgust adoring her pretty face. Cuckoo, well, Suzune, I don't mind you playing the hard-to-get game. I find breaking 'em better that way. This caused many of the females in the auditorium to view Ryu and Kakeru as the very dirt beneath their souls, their contempt palpable. Oi, kid, you new around here? A drunken voice called out to me. Short blonde hair, leather jacket, rose emblem, strange contraption strapped to the sides with gas canisters and what appears to be swords. I nodded. Ah, yeah, this is Shiganshina, right? Yes, sir, his comrade shouted in unison before breaking into a song. Something about a plague or something along those lines. I couldn't understand what they were saying. Their language was slurred. Definitely Germans. Damn, bro has some serious stereotypes about them Germans, huh? Hey, anyone in here German and can confirm? No, Sayake. A few pats on the back from his seatmates was a quiet gesture of, don't worry, we're with you, fallen soldier, or something along those lines. The older blonde chuckled. Don't mind them. They're just a little bit lousy. Say, what can I do for you? We don't get man visitors, especially from the inner walls. Oh, I forgot, I'm Haynes, by the way. I'm Yamauchi. I was just looking for a map, that's all. No need to. That's a horrible fake name. That's a terrible fake name. Maizono blurted out from the back of Class D, barely holding it together. Sakyangi tilted her head, tapping her cane gently against the floor as she scoured her memory. Yama, how curious. Her lips curved faintly. Was he Yamakawa? Yamamoto? Ah, how dreadful. I truly can't recall. Hashimoto leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to pretend it was private. Yama dead, he supplied helpfully. The giggles around class heightened into outright snickers. Class D, however, did not find it amusing. Sudo slammed a hand against his knee. Shut up, you don't got to say it like that. Ike looked torn between embarrassment and outrage. Oi, he was still from our class, you know. Their protests only made it worse. Hirata didn't laugh. He looked away, jaw tight, hands clenched loosely in his lap. It wasn't sympathy exactly, but the scene clearly struck an uncomfortable chord in him. Public ridicule, even for someone expelled, wasn't something he could stomach easily. Meanwhile, the girls' section of Class D was noticeably lighter. Relief passed between glances. Sato let out a quiet breath. Honestly, hearing that name again is more awkward than funny. Onodera nodded, lips pressed together before allowing a small smile. I don't miss him. He made me anxious more than anything else. Especially in all those swimming lessons. I mean, did you guys see how him and Aikun sniffed the air? Several others shared that sentiment, some more openly than others. No one said it aloud, but the thought was there. Good riddance. Kay covered her mouth, eyes sparkling despite herself. Okay, that was kind of funny. Then she added with a shrug, he brought it on himself, though. Even Kushida's smile, polished as ever, carried an unmistakable edge of relief. I suppose, she muttered sweetly. Some people just aren't suited to staying at this school. Ha! Just 203 more and I'll have my perfect school life. Ike, that damned pervert. Horikita, the stuck-up ice princess bitch, and lastly, the one who for now isn't any concern to me, Ayano Koji. As the laughter faded, the screen continued playing. But the damage was done. A single awful alias had reduced a former classmate to a punchline, and in doing so, reminded everyone just how thin the line at ANH really was. One bad choice, one wrong step, and you became a name no one could quite remember, or worse, one they remembered only to laugh at. Social death at its finest. Nonsense. Haynes placed his arm around my shoulders, invading my personal space. He stank of wine, not beer. Are we in Italy? Austria? You go down the road, yeah? Straight from here. On your left there's a big map, got it? Yeah, thank you. No problem. And there's a small motel down the main street. Doesn't get much business, but it's there. Have a good stay. The wine doesn't even smell the good to get drink off of. Smells like British wine. The grapes used don't get enough sunlight because it's raining all the time. Plus, this climate doesn't speak the Mediterranean. Haruka blinked, then tilted her head. Why does that sound like something you'd hear from a wine critic on TV? There was a pause before she added, half amused, half bewildered. Since when does Kiopon care so much about wine? Is he some kind of secret wine connoisseur? Akito let out a short breath through his nose. He said quietly, though that's the strange part. Kiyotaka's just analyzing it automatically, I guess. Kiyoshi adjusted his glasses. Truly it's odd how his brain is wired, he muttered. He deduced climate, agriculture, and trade suitability in one thought instead of just the smell and fragrance it carried. After a second, he added under his breath, I can't say that's normal observational processing, but then again, with how we've been seeing his thoughts thus far, it's obvious his observation, deduction, and analytical abilities are all top-notch. No one could refute this, not even the dumbest of the students at ANHS, as it was proven time and again. Ayano Koji had formidable observational prowess. This was an established fact. Kushida clasped her hands together, looking a little lost. I didn't even know wine could smell like countries. Then, softer, almost fondly, Ayano Koji-kun really notices everything, doesn't he? A few seats away, Kei had a different thought. She frowned, arms folding loosely. Why? Does he sound so calm? Her worry slipped through despite her effort to mask it. He's in some unknown place with giant walls and weird people, and he's critiquing wine like it's an everyday commodity. Come on, Kiyotaka, you're better than that. She bit her lip, eyes fixed on the screen. Her close friends, now somewhat understanding the nature of their relationship, could only sympathize with both her and the trapped classmate on screen. Hirata offered a gentle, uneasy smile. In a strange way, he said, that's very like him. A quiet resignation about his remark, seemingly accepting his quirky ability to just analyze everything. I shed my blazer, as its bright red color made me stand out in the crowd and kept OT to my side. I had to start making plans to steal some clothes, money, and potentially food. That would be easy in all regards. As soon as I get a good look at the map, survival is all but secured. So he really will have to steal after all, huh? Asked Ikinose. Before anyone says anything, I know it's paramount for his survival and I want nothing more than his safety, so it really can't be helped. Ito, someone as kind as Ayano Koji-kun, still shouldn't have to steal. I stand by that point. Cuckoo. Ryoan laughed internally. That monster and nice, huh? Give me a break. I think I'm more likely to see Ishizaki in a women's swimsuit before that monster genuinely acts with his so-called kindness. Shook their heads at the sheer naivety of Class B's leader, but chose to focus on how Ayano Koji was planning to carry out the theft instead. This was because he had thought that would be easy in all regards. About causally stealing from strange people. Also a few sharper ones like Katsuragi, Sakiyangi, Horikita, and Kanzaki caught the tail end of the inner monologue. One look at the map, and survival was all but secured. Such utter confidence oozing not from arrogance but belief. Pure belief that he could genuinely survive in the place. In other students, it filled them with hope and a sincere belief of his optimism. But to those who knew him like Horikita, it meant he was planning something. Then the question was, what exactly then was Ayano Koji cooking? I passed by a window, and inside was a man and a woman, husband and wife playing with their infant Chile. I can't help but envy them a little bit. Haruka's expression softened first. He noticed that first "ha," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Not the house itself, but the family inside it. Akito leaned back, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the screen. Aries' fingers tightened around her skirt. A husband and wife with a baby, she repeated softly. Then, almost shyly, Kiyotaka-kun wanted that, a proper family. Kanzaki didn't speak at first. When he did, his voice was measured, but no less tense. Envy implies the lack of something, he said, and the awareness of it, might I add. Ki didn't say anything right away. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen, jaw set, hands clenched together in her lap. "Baka," she finally muttered under her breath. She swallowed, voice quieter now. "He's not jealous of them." A pause. "He's jealous of what they're allowed to have, that peaceful life. He'll have to work hard to make it easy for a while, won't he?" Sigh. "Please be okay, Kiyotaka. So, you can come back to me safely and we can have a real date together and do other things a couple would do." Elsewhere in the theater, confused murmurs and uncertain glances dominating the audience. He envies that. A normal family. Isn't that actually kind of sad? I really did regress in age. How? Old am I now, 14, 15? Does that mean my strength is back? Again strange. I kept my memories but regressed to my physical peak. Everything is so illogical I might start crying. The next line hit the auditorium like a sudden pressure drop, thus, for a brief moment, no one spoke. The more resolute students were the first to move past the shock. Kise's hand instantly went to his chin, eyes narrowed behind his glasses. "This isn't just mere time travel," he muttered. Kiyotaka's consciousness remained intact while his physiology reverted. That may imply a certain level of separation between mental continuity and his physical state. Kanzaki's expression was grave, which suggests whatever did this didn't merely send him back. It reconstructed him to a previous age, he said. His memories were preserved whilst his body was fundamentally altered. Arisu Sakiyanagi smiled faintly, fingers drumming her cane once again. "How fascinating," she said, tone light but eyes razor-sharp. "A restored body and a preserved mind, almost as if someone or something wanted him in an optimal state." She tilted her head. Or perhaps they returned him to the version of himself they considered most valuable. Hashimoto frowned, unease creeping in his chest. "So you're saying he didn't just get younger," he muttered. "He got reset to his physical peak." Katsuragi didn't look amused. "That would explain the lack of panic," he said quietly. "He's not as confused at this sudden change as anyone else would be. I suppose he's evaluating his situation as he's always done." Ryuin let out a sharp, barking laugh. "Oi! Oi, did you hear that?" he said, teeth bared in something between amusement and irritation. "Peak at 14. His eyes gleamed. "So you're telling me that wasn't even your best?" Ibuki's eyes widened, then narrowed immediately. "Titch. That's just bullshit," she snapped. She crossed her arms hard. "You expect me to believe the freak strength he showed before was him holding back because he was past his damn prime?" Ishizaki scratched his head, baffled but clearly shook. Wait, hold up," he said loudly. "You're saying when we fought he wasn't even at full power?" He glanced at Ryuin, then back to the screen. "That's messed up, boss. Wonder how much more he could have messed us up then." Ryuin's grin widened, but there was something darker beneath it now. "Cuckoo. Guess that explains it," he murmured, a pause followed by a large sigh. A damn monster wearing the fragments of his true strength. This made many students consider what transpired between Ryuin's gang and Ayanokoji. It seemed as if it was a fight of some sort, judging by the conversation. "Boy, Ryuin, what exactly happened between you guys, and why do you keep calling the king monster like that? It's unsettling, quite frankly." Hashimoto voiced a thought that many had before, but seemed to lack the courage to act on it. Just what it sounded like. That day on the rooftop wasn't an internal disagreement between Ishizaki and I. It was a fight against that monster, 1v4. And guess what? He whooped our asses without me even getting a lick in. He didn't bother hiding it. In an unfamiliar situation, Ayanokoji has to play to his full abilities, right? So why should I bother hiding it now like he threats me to? Plus, this could make things more interesting once the monster gets back. Many shuddered at the thought, considering both Albert and Ryuin were ridiculously strong, by their own right. Alongside them with the fast and nimble capoeira practitioner Ibuki Mio, and the infamous delinquent Ishizaki. This was news to much of the student body, the reveal slowly sinking into their own minds. A heavy, creeping silence rolled through the seats as Ryuin's words finished echoing in everyone's ears. A 1 versus 4, where said person had no injuries, where said person also refrained from bragging about it, thus leading to the lack of news. For a few seconds it felt like the entire school had collectively forgotten how to breathe. Haruka's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. That's impossible, right? She whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Kiopon? Fighting? Akito stiffened beside her, jaw tightening. Nah, he said slowly. That bastard Raiwan doesn't lie about stuff like this. His gaze stayed fixed on the screen. Not when it makes him look bad, so I don't see him doing that without reason. Although it caught him off guard, he was truly proud of his bro. He wanted to knock sense into Raiwan too, but it seemed Kiyotaka had it covered on his behalf. Eri shrank into her seat, fingers clutching the hem of her sleeve. Kiyotaka-kun fought because of Raiwan coming after our class. She murmured, voice trembling. Her eyes darted nervously like she was trying to reconcile the gentle boy she knew with the vicious image of Raiwan already painted in her mind. Queasy pushed his glasses up, visibly shaken. So all those times during the sports festival, he muttered. He wasn't just average in that regard either. I mean, we knew he could run fast, but a 4-on-1. That was when a couple of voices from the back of Class D chimed in. Hold on, Miyamoto said, brows furrowed. If he could do that, why the hell was he so average at swimming? Yeah, Hondo added, leaning forward. He had a bang average time during the early classes. That wasn't acting, was it? Murmurs spread quickly. Oi, oi. His grip strength tests, he scored, 55 to 60. Did he always stop early? But it was impounding into tacit confusion. Hirata stood up formally in his seat, voice calm but firm. Maybe Kiyotaka-kin didn't want attention, he said. His hands on his knees. If you're that strong, standing out only causes problems. I think he was avoiding them. Some students scoffed quietly. Horikita didn't. She exhaled slowly, eyes narrowed in thought. That makes sense, she said. After a brief pause, she added quietly onto that, clearly enough to carry her voice. When he faced my brother, he was clearly holding back. If he was able to take out Raiwan's group without sustaining injuries, he may be one of the most formidable fighters on the campus, all things considered. At this point, even Horikita didn't bother hiding his presence any longer. The whole school would most likely find out what he was capable of anyways. She would at least try cushion the implications of it all. That snapped many heads toward her. Suzune continued, voice steady but fraught with answers. I didn't realize it at the time, but now, her gaze hardened. There's a real possibility he was stronger than Nissan. Ryuan's grin twitched slightly. Before anyone could press her further, a sharp, unmistakably irritated voice cut in. Don't twist it into something ugly. All eyes turned. Karuizawa Kei had her arms crossed, expression tight but not afraid. He didn't beat them for fun, she said flatly. And he didn't do it to prove anything either. She took a breath, steeling herself. She would do this for Kiyotaka, who had freed her from her past. She wouldn't let them paint him in a bad picture if she could help it. Her boyfriend was too cool for that. They were messing with me on the rooftop. Her voice didn't waver. He stepped in because it needed to stop. That's it. And that's also how we became close, for those wondering why he mentioned me in his thoughts earlier. The room went still again, but this time for different reasons. A couple of whispers spread, softer now. So it was for someone else. He didn't even report it to anyone. Can you believe that? So Ayanokoji-kun protected her. Even some of the harsher looks toward him eased, and a heroic image set in for Ayanokoji. He had taken on Ryuan's lackeys, and the tyrant himself, all to defend a classmate. That impression was the general consensus. Kukuku, that Karuizawa chick, really spun the narrative in his favor. Not bad at all. I see why he risked his identity for such a valuable piece in his arsenal. Fufu, truly magnificent. My, what a marvelous pawn you seem to have gotten a hold of, Ayanokoji-kun, to think you aren't even present and she's still diligently defending you. I wonder just what you had to have pulled to get her so effectively on your side. Yorishina sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, eyes distant. An enigma, she thought. A boy who hides his strength, rejects recognition, and only acts when absolutely necessary. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. A puzzle enraptured in restraint. I wonder, is this what made you so mysterious to me? Once the heavy atmosphere had subsided, thoughts shifted back to what this implied to being his physical peak. Sudo's mouth hung open. Oi, think about it, though. That's got to be a joke, right? He scoffed, but there was no conviction in it. There's no way someone peaks at 14. That's when I could barely bench my own weight. Albert, silent as ever, folded his arms more tightly. He didn't move like someone past his prime, he said simply. Bro's punches really hurt. Hiyori smiled gently, then translated the words to the group. Ibuki clicked her tongue. Yeah, no kidding. The map was an old-looking one, but I could get a rough idea of what this place was. I walked away after a small glance at the paper, the memory drilling itself deep into my brain. 3 walls, Maria, Rose, Sina. 12 districts on the outskirts of each wall. 4 for each. I'm in Shiganshina now. The capital, Mitras, is in the center. Good for communication and presumably the farthest from danger. If all roads lead to the capital, nothing will be unknown for too long. Horikita's brow slowly furrowed. He mapped the entire civilization in seconds. Sudu leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Is Ayanokoji-kun just guessing, or does he actually know this stuff? Arisu smiled faintly, cane resting against her knee. Guessing implies uncertainty. He clearly has none here. A perfect analysis, fu. Why are we in an enclosed circle? Who built this? Who had the time to build all of this? Where did the material come from? Information gathered from the children, along with what the general population in the Shiganshina district looks like. I can assume that the poorest citizens live on the outskirts of the walls in Wall Maria. The middle class, if there even is any, lives in Rose, and Sina hosts the rich. A very rigid social hierarchy. That means or can narrow down the period further, maybe before or after the French Revolution and the subsequent wars, 1789 to 1815, or if I were to gamble, I was in the period before the 1848 revolutions. That could explain the small amount of technological advancement with the strange gas canisters and equipment. Did he just name-drop 3 revolutions? Ike muttered. My head hurts. It seemed Ike was now a groaning mess. Sutamura's eyes sparkled. Whoa, that's some world-building deduction, already getting a glimpse into the surrounding world. Ayanokoji Dono's brain should be illegal. It's just unfair. Mashima-sensei adjusted his cuffs silently. His depth of knowledge is profound. Sakagami was of a similar thought. Just how did they raise this defective Class D student for him to be so capable? Matter of fact, how on earth is this kid even in Class D in the first place? Kisei exhaled slowly through his nose. Ayanokoji-kun manages to connect loose morsels of information very quickly. Horikita didn't respond. She was staring at the screen like it might finally answer something she'd been asking herself for over a year. The population density doesn't seem too large either, but that could just be people living in Shiganshina as a whole are small. I'll have to check out the other districts when I get the time. If there are no cars, then horses are the next best thing. Stealing a horse should be easy. I want to test something. Hey, stop that thief. He just ran off with my bread. Sorry, shopkeep, as the saying goes, finders keepers. Losers. Weepers. I disappeared into the crowd, holding 2 loaves of bread and a small bag of coins. I was too fast for anyone to keep an eye on at the time. I could hear the sound of a whistle fading into the background as I got further and further away from the market. Ryuin grinned, teeth sharp. Cuckoo. Well, there it is. Disregarding all moral considerations and prioritizing survival. He's like a wounded animal. Konji laughed softly. How refreshing, Ayanokoji boy. Ibuki sat upright. Fast. Ishizaki blinked. Wait, that's it? No chase? Albert crossed his arms, nodding once. Bro's movement is clean. Miyamoto's voice cracked slightly. Then, during the sports festival, he really was holding back. Horikita closed her eyes briefly. Again. Just how much more? Running into an alleyway, I hid myself from the line of sight and killed my presence, rapid toot steps approaching. Has anyone seen, someone holding a few loaves of bread run through here? His Majesty's military police demands an answer. The person whom I assumed to be a guard asked. They couldn't get my physical description in time. If what Mikasa said was true, I should have stood out like a sore thumb. How incompetent are these people? Also, we have a king. I got a good look at the people chasing after me. They had the same uniforms as the ones at the gates, only this time they had a green unicorn emblem. They carried muskets, flintlock muskets. Soon enough they dissolved into the mass of humanity, my presence comparable to the air El breathe. Sotomura snorted. Dude got izakai'd and immediately started roasting the NPCs. Hashimoto tilted his head, intrigued but cautious. He's noted down all the important information about M too. Man, the king really is something else. Arisu hummed. A monarchy. Firearms. Walls. Her smug smile sharpened a touch. This country is a cage. I conclude this as an almost certain fact. Ryuin leaned back, satisfied. See? Ain't he just a real monster? Many could only nod in silent agreement. I was slowly losing the will to live. Losing those wannabe policemen was easy. I shouldn't be too worried. I'll bounce from town to town before procuring some documents and live out my peaceful life. I took a bite into one of the pieces of bread. It looked fresh, and the crust was stale, dry, cardboard, disgusting. Well, my life just sucks. Ari's shoulders trembled before she realized it herself. She pressed her hands together tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the screen. He's alone, she whispered. Completely alone there. Haruka didn't smile this time. Her usual warmth dimmed, replaced by something more protective. Kyopon didn't even hesitate, she said softly. Did you notice? Not about having to steal, or about, I don't know, being in a whole different world. Her voice lowered. But food and comfort, that's what finally gets to him. Akito swallowed. That means Kiyotaka's tired, he muttered, like bone-deep tired. Kisei pushed his glasses up, but his hand lingered there longer than necessary. He keeps moving forward because stopping would force him to feel it, he said quietly. I know that kind of thinking, and just how self-destructive it can become. Ikanos leaned closer to Amikura without realizing it. I don't think he's scared, she said, eyes glassy. I think he's resigned. She bit her lip. And that's worse, if anything. Amikura placed a hand gently on her arm, squeezing once in reassurance. He's still himself, she said softly. That matters a little, right? Ikanos nodded, but her gaze never left the screen. Hiyori sat with her hands folded neatly, expression serene, yet deeply affected. He observes like a scholar, she thought poetically, endures like a soldier, and envies like a child. Her chest ached faintly. What kind of life creates someone like that? She desperately wanted to know.